So this is the third workshop webinar that we've hosted in, I think, the last 10 days. Would that be right, Tamara? Yes. So
Are you done?
Paige? No, I'm not.
I'll take my mute.
Yep.
Right. So it's 7 o'clock and I don't think Leo's tired because he's riding to London at the moment. But just give us a kind of a hand and tell me what's your energy like? 1, low, 2, 3, I'm okay. 4, I'm right. I'm on fire. It's 7 o'clock at night. 4, 3, 4, 4. Ooh, okay. Well, 3. All right. So my goal is to keep the energy high. I'm on a 14-day cleanse for my well-being, and I'm on day 3, which if anyone's done anything like that, day 3 is terrible, like no coffee, no sugar, no flour, no booze. So I'm struggling with the no coffee, but we'll see how we go. So today is all about the roles that you play as a leader, and in particular, the fact that we are in a crisis mode, how these 3 roles can support you to support the people in your business. So actually just give me a bit of a hand. Are there people that you have as staff or team members, people that report to you? So just give me an idea of that with a hand. Okay, radio. Thank you. So whilst you might not have, say, direct report, these 3 roles are all about how you influence through your leadership. So this is an umbrella subject of leadership. So I'm just going to pop that up so it reminds us. All right. So when you think about leadership, I want you to think about 3 levels of leadership. And just keep that in the back of your mind as you think about these 3 roles that you play. So I've mentioned this in a previous webinars, and this is how I talk about leadership in my business. So the first one is self. So this is about you, and there's no use thinking about being a coach, a mentor, a facilitator if you are in a position to be coached, mentored, or be in a position to have someone facilitate for you. So you've got to be able to do both. It's also about being self-aware and aware that there's always room for improvement, development, and to increase your performance. So that's the self-leadership. So the second is social leadership. And that's about where you influence colleagues, staff, clients in everything you do. You are a role model. So if you are starting to coach, you're in a position then to encourage people that work alongside you or staff members to do the same. So always in leadership, you think about the social aspect of it and how you influence. The third is strategic. And strategic is about your business. This isn't going to work unless you are focusing on yourself and you're focusing on the people in your business. That is paramount, but the other 2 are more important. So that's why generally in the social area is when we talk about these 3 roles of coaching, mentoring and facilitating. So just to set the scene, I'm going to share my screen and just show you a few slides. I want to build the case why this is important, in particular at this time in our world. Now, just a hand up, can you see that okay? I'm just going to leave it in that mode. So I'll just move on. So let's just think about being a really good person, a great leader, a great role model. And I want you to close your eyes. If you can do that riding your bike. If you can, you're in your car and you're driving towards a set of lights. You stop. And all of a sudden, someone swerves and almost hits you in the rear. What would you normally do? How would you react? So think about that. How would you react? Would you swear expletives? Would you possibly honk your horn? Would you get out your car? Or would you just ignore it? So when we talk about leadership, we talk about operating above or below the line. And when we're above the line, we're accountable and we are accepting that we have responsibilities. When we're below the line, we blame, we make excuses, and we're in denial. So we're the victim opposed to being the victor. So this particular model is out of the Global Leadership Foundation. They're actually out of Melbourne, in cahoots with Robert Kiyosaki, who's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. They've done a lot of work around this split second in time that we have to make a decision about how we behave. And I always talk about that you've always got that split second to make that decision that, is this an opportunity that I could coach? Could I be part of the conversation? Could I help? Could I be someone who facilitates a conversation? So just think about the next time you're in the car, if you ever do get back in a car, and you know, we do see road rage quite regularly. Is it an automatic response when you see something and you react? Or can you breathe, think very quickly and respond as we would like to think that we respond in business, with thought and you know, great thinking? But unfortunately, we've got these habits which are automatic. So this is in a sense what we're trying to do, is to think about being a coach, a mentor, and facilitator. It's a different way of thinking. Now, while you're driving, have you ever seen this road sign? I'm just going to see if I can see you all. So hands up, who's seen that road sign before? One. Yeah, I'm always surprised about who has seen this or not. VUCA is an acronym which has been around for quite a long time. I'd say coming up for 25 years. It was brought about for the military in the US before they went into combat to understand what it's like to face those 4 words, in particular complexity and uncertainty. And that is what we're facing at the moment. And when people face that, they feel anxiety. So as a leader, we've got the opportunity to respond to that, and with accountability. So if people feel that they're in a volatile situation, they need you to be reliable so that you follow through and do what you say you do, and be positive about that. When there's uncertainty, people are looking for someone to trust in. And in the workplace that we're thinking of, you're the person, or your colleagues are those people that want to feel that they're understood, that they're heard, and that you are front of mind when there's not a lot of confident or clear, concise information. If there's ambiguity, and there seems to be so much ambiguity at the moment, even when you think about our country with the states and territories all doing different things at different times, they're seeking direction, and they want to be looking for absolute clarity in what the purpose is. And if you think about your business, continually reminding people what is the purpose of our business, how does it fit in the scheme of things. And the final piece is about dealing with complexity and the need to be direct. So sometimes you don't have time for a conversation. You may need to be very direct with information, but so that it's received and understood and it's received regularly to comfort. Now, in later days, we've seen a change to the VUCA model, and there's a great book which I'll have as a reference, Agile Leadership, where we talk about the agile in VUCA. So look out for that. But it's a great model to think about, to understand what is going in the minds of people, especially when they're remote and you can't see them, you can't read how they're feeling. And if you're not having conversations, it's a challenge for you, it's a challenge for them, and it's a challenge for their families. So if we get out of the car, we move into this room. This is taking us further into leadership, where we are jumping up on the balcony and looking at the dance floor to see what's going on. Too often we stay on the dance floor and we get caught up in the chaos. The model of leadership here is adaptive leadership, and that's out of Harvard. And what we talk about here is the ability to work on the unknown, where there is no answer and possibly no time frame, exactly the crisis that we are in at the moment. And we talk about technical challenges and adaptive challenges. So at the moment, we are in an adaptive challenge. It's really difficult to identify. We're really looking at our values and beliefs and how we approach work at the moment. We really want to solve the problem, but we don't really know how to solve it. We're working on it. We do want a quick fix, but there is no quick fix. So we are in a time of adaptive challenge. There's a whole piece of work around that that is really useful in your leadership approach to understand that technical challenges, there is an answer and it can be immediate. But adaptive, which we're in at the moment, there's an approach to take. First being the whole ability to get up on the balcony to see what's happening. I'll just take you just to another piece to think about as well. In our endeavour to help appease people, to help them make sense of what's going on, they're taking all this information in and they're trying to work out, do I trust you or is there distrust? And we really want to ramp up the oxytocin in our brain and downplay the cortisol. As soon as you tell people what to do, as soon as you go into a command and control mode, opposed to a conversation, truth-telling, relationships, really think about being transparent, you'll build the oxytocin, and that's where we want you to be moving. Just in this quick slide, you'll see there are 5 brains, and while we operate and do our work, there's so much going on there to understand. So I'll write about this tomorrow and jump on LinkedIn and follow the conversation and add what you would like to talk about. All right, so that's a bit of a segue into the importance of really realising that it is adaptive at the moment. We're literally making things up as we go. The importance of trust, the importance of communication, and having this conversation. And I'm presenting these 3 roles that we do that. So I'll come back to you. And is everyone still with me? I'm just going to check the chat room. Yeah, we're okay there. Radio. Oh, we've had Joe join us and Darren join us as well, so that's great. So I'm just going to start now moving into those three roles. I'm just checking my notes to make sure that I don't miss anything important. All right, so I'll just pop you back on that screen. Okay, so the first role is about being a coach. So being a coach, you know, the one word really that comes to mind is questions. And I'm a purveyor of questions. I'm always looking for the questions that will help people open their minds. So whilst I coach professionally as an executive coach, this is not that. This is about literally what I call corridor coaching. So I'll make sense more of that being a virtual coach. So think about if you can help people get a better understanding of themselves and their potential performance, that's you being a coach. And that's your aim. So coaching has been around for quite a while. I learnt executive coaching, I think 25 years ago. I was in the finance industry, and we're pretty early on to bring in coaches, and a select group of us learned to coach. And it's a bit tough for me because I like telling people stuff. So I really had to learn to not do the telling and to do the asking and listen deeply. So I've really had to learn that skill, and it is indeed a skill to learn. So coaching, I'll just bust some myths. Coaching is not, the coaching we're talking about, and I'm not saying it's not useful in the workplace, but I'm not talking about sports coaching. I'm not talking about executive coaching. I did a little brainstorm. What else am I not talking about? I think they're probably the two key ones. Coaching is really simple in using a model. If you can find a model, I'm going to share one with you, to help you follow a pattern of questions to get to a destination. And it can be very short. And I call it corridor because I like to think you can do it in 5 minutes. So when I've worked with lots of clients who want to be able to coach their staff, you know, the first thing they think about is they've got to book a meeting room for an hour. And it's not necessary. It can be a very quick process. And Tamara, I'm putting on notice, it's about to start.
Okay, I'll unmute me.
You unmute? All right. So I think I'll come back to my notes there. So I'm going to be asking a few questions, Tamara, and I'm going to show you the questions actually now. So I'm going to show everyone else. So just hold on while I do that. So these are, and these are the questions, Tamara. So this is the first model of coaching questions. So John Whitmore put about, and these are really, it's a great go-to if you Google coaching questions, so John Whitmore, these will pop up. And that's just a summary of those. There's about 150 questions that you could choose from. But I think life is much easier, and I've gone for a Queenslander Canadian, Michael Bungay Stania, and about 4 years ago he put this book out, and he interviewed people from around the world, managers, CEOs, how they coached and had conversations with their staff. And this is what he came up with. These 7 questions. So just have a quick look. I'll come back to them, but I want to demonstrate their use, and then we can come back and pull it apart. All right, I might change my view. So I'm just looking at you, Tamara. Are you ready?
Yep.
So I'm just going to use my cheat sheet because I sometimes when I coach, I might spend a whole hour or 90 minutes coaching someone, and I want to see if I can test myself to keep it really brief. But don't feel that you need to be brief. So for everyone's information, so I did seek Tamara's permission that this was okay to do, and I did ask her just the first question just to get her thinking about, just to potentially speed things along. So I don't know if you did notice the first question on that list, we actually call it the Facebook question. So Facebook for many years have asked this question. It's there if you use Facebook. If you go in there right now, it will ask you what's on your mind. And the whole idea, and you can change the language, but the whole idea is for people not to think about how they feel, but to actually tap into what's they're thinking, what's consuming in their mind. So Tamara, what's on your mind at the moment?
All the things I need to write and do and action right now.
Write, do, action right now. What else? What else is on your mind?
Gee, how long have you got? I have 100 things on my mind. I have, when's life going to get back to normal? When can I go back to the office? When can the kids go back to school? All those things that are very, I guess, environment based. About what am I going to do on the weekend? I mean, as little as we can. We all know that we have to stay home. Am I going to get a reasonable night's sleep? Am I going to pour an extra glass of wine rather than do the dishes? All those very little things that make up 100 things going on in my mind.
So a lot of the domestic items that are on that list.
Yes.
So I suppose if we could even narrow it in a bit further, what's the most challenging thing for you at the moment?
Time management.
Time management. So just tell me a bit more about that.
I guess like everyone else working from home, when does your day consist of those domestic tasks like cleaning, cooking, spending time with family, whatever else, and then when does the work life begin and end? For example, the marketing for the webinars, emails, keeping up with members. When do I draw the line between those two, and how much of the day goes into those two?
Okay, rightio. So what is it you want then? Time management and all those things are going on. What do you want?
I guess clear boundaries, to know what's expected, what I can fit in my day, and have a really clear picture of what my day consists of and what it should look like.
Okay, so then how can I help? I'm your boss. How can I help with you achieving that?
Maybe some expectations of what I need to get done in my day, what has to be done now, what can be left for later, and maybe what can just get done when it can get done.
Okay. All right. So if we can work that out, and let's say we're saying yes, that let's create those boundaries. What are you saying no to?
Definitely not a glass of wine.
Would that be a woohoo? We can get that sorted.
At the moment, what I'm saying no to, I guess, if I'm honest, sleep. I'm trying to just cram as much as I can into my day, and I just don't have time to sleep, which then, of course, isn't great for my motivation during the day. I'm probably slower getting my tasks done, which then in turn makes me stay up later even more.
So it's pretty important that we work on those boundaries and sort that out. Okay. Okay, so how's that helped you? Just to sort your thinking out then, Tamara, just the final question.
Yeah, I definitely need to look at my priorities more. And I guess especially in this environment, but even in any other environment, if I don't take care of myself, I really can't get what I need to get done.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important in our office that things get done.
Yep.
Okay, let me thank you, Tamara. So let us, how about we unmute Tamara? Let's get everyone on the blower.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, exactly. So, and contribute as you wish. So I'll just ask Tamara, how did that actually feel?
Good. I mean, obviously a lot different in a work environment. You want to be able to have those conversations with your team and your managers. But definitely, even from my point of view, just to be able to vocalize what I'm feeling and what I'm dealing with helps me understand what I need without even getting input from a manager or from a leader.
Yes, and that's the difference, isn't it? You were doing the talking.
Yep.
You were doing the input. Now, how does it feel, the fact that we're on Zoom and having the conversation with lots of people watching?
For me personally, I think it's less daunting. I quite enjoy hiding behind a screen as such. But I mean, everyone would certainly be different. A lot of people might feel that it's more daunting having those conversations in front of everyone else.
Okay, so I'll open it up. Any, what are your thoughts on that little process, feedback? How would you find it working, you using it as a little model to use?
Yeah, definitely agree with that approach. And the other thing is it reduces the likelihood of staff always coming to you to answer and solve their problems.
Yep, that's it.
How often are you suggesting that you would do that?
Pardon, Ryan?
How often are you suggesting that you would do that every day?
Good question. What would you think, Ryan?
I'm just thinking if you've got, say, 7 reports,
yep,
and you've got to do it every day, it's going to eat a fair bit into your day.
Okay.
And even more complicated when they're all remote.
Yeah. So I'll come to you next, Nosh. It's got to be authentic coming from you. So, I'm hearing the accountancy there, counting up the numbers and the time. But I mean, if that could be a 5-minute call or Zoom at the moment in the remote, you've got to think, what's the value that you're going to arrive out of that time? You know, it's a bit of an investment. It's money going in and seeing what comes out at the other end. So that would be my first thought. You wouldn't need to be using that those 7 questions all the time. You might be able to go back and just check in the last couple of pieces. So when we were talking yesterday, you were going to, map out some boundaries. How did you go with that? And that's you kind of being consistent, and people are looking for that at the moment. They need to know that you care, that you're there, and that you are following up or you're following them up.
Yeah, well, we're doing a similar thing. We're checking in to try and get engagement. We're doing checking in with people who don't report to us once a week, so that, because we're finding that they probably open up a little bit more to people that they're not directly working for.
Yep.
So we're each partner within the practice got 4 staff members that don't work for them that they'll contact each week, and it obviously rotates.
That's great. I'd be doing it a bit more regularly. And there is a check-in, which
Mm.
we would tend to think is more emotionally intelligent. So you're checking how people are feeling at the moment. That's generally engagement. Whereas
Yeah.
I'm talking about performance, I'm talking about moving things along and finding out, are people able to do what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, this is nothing to do with jobs or work or whatever, more just
Okay.
how
So we
they're
are,
going, how they're working at home, and just
yeah.
that
And
sort
that's
of thing.
the coaching format, isn't it? If you're asking the questions, that's still great. You can just add on to that.
Yeah.
A bit more about the activity. Nosh, you were going to say something?
So I used to work, so my position was made redundant, but I used to manage a team of remote subject matter experts. I used to run online courses. We used to work in an agile environment, and Ryan, you might want to try this. We call them stand-ups. So every day at 10 a.m. we used to stand up, and the questions we would ask is, what am I achieving today? What do I need help with? And then people go around the team, and you give the person just 1 minute to talk, so it doesn't go like 5 whole minutes, but it really works. Try doing it, and it might work. Obviously, I love your approach about how you're feeling, because that is so important in this time, especially. It just gives that personal touch, a human touch is what I call it, rather than that. In terms of your model, Louise, I actually wrote in the chat, I love the approach, and it's almost a win-win situation, because Tamara almost felt very valued and heard of. As an employee, I would like that. But also Tamara has built that rapport with her boss, because now Tamara's boss probably knows that she's got 2 kids, or I'm sorry, Tamara, if you don't have them, but you've got kids and she likes wine. So maybe when Tamara does a good job, if the boss was quite clued on, they would send her a bottle of wine. So you're kind of leading a step to building a rapport with your boss as well. And I think once you've got that rapport, you can basically get more work effectively.
Exactly. I call it spreadsheet leadership. So there's another S for my 3. Spreadsheet is picking up any data that is released from the responses. So yes, exactly, Nosh, the wine, the number of kids, the hours, not sleeping. You know, I need that data because that's my leadership intelligence. So when I next speak with you, I might check up on that. Anyone else? Yes, thanks, Yvette.
Yeah, so Louise, from personal experience, I'm working with very vulnerable people at the moment.
I'll just say Yvette ran a webinar 2 weeks ago. It's fantastic. So you're Good Shepherd?
Good Shepherd, yeah. And we work in micro enterprise space with very low income earners, and lots of them possibly have lost income, lost jobs, or are not eligible for Centrelink because of their visa statuses. So quite challenging. So, but what I actually experienced myself was the leadership from my boss was starting to see it was really impacting on me a week ago, when I was totally demotivated. I didn't want to go to work. And I'm sure all of us have felt that at some point in this last 7 weeks. And interestingly, that question around what's on your mind, it was actually what he led with something like, well, his words were really around that feeling type thing. However, the way he opened it up was, just tell me what are you feeling, what's going on. So the approach just really opened up the opportunity to say, it's really overwhelming. The other questions, interestingly, I really like, because they then lead you into, where do I go? And I think Tamara picked up on that, was you're starting to see, I'm going through this stuff, I'm recognising it myself, and then I'm moving beyond that. So I think giving people the opportunity to do that's hugely valuable at the moment. Yes. And in a forum which isn't work specific. So it can't be, you know, what's on your mind about work. It needs to be what's on your mind generally, because we're all dealing with it.
Yeah.
So well done.
generally a lot of it's external that's impacting us, and unless we unpack that, it's really a bit of a challenge. But that can take a few rounds of that approach. Yeah, Nosh.
I hope this approach managers use even after COVID-19, because it's such a personal touch. And yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So we'll have it as a link to resource. So Michael Bungay Stanier is the author, and Coaching Habits. Ooh, actually, I've got it here. The Coaching Habit. That's the book. Absolute Leader's Handbook I recommend. And I recommend to all my clients that they read that. And it's a handbook, so you kind of do workshops and you go online and do stuff as well. All right, so coaching. Oh, okay, go on mute again. Let me just check how we're going with time. Ooh, okay, so. So I've done coach, and being the coach, just think questions, ask questions. And I read a brilliant piece the other day. It's actually something that I wrote a long time ago, if I can be a bit boastful, and that is that what's essential is to interrupt the process of forgetting. The more you ask questions about what they've done and said, the more opportunity there is for them to recall the information and potentially do something about the matter. So you're helping people not forget by asking them questions. That's why coaching is about getting them, the other person, to think about how they're going to act on it. Next, mentor. So this is my preference in my work that I do. I love being a leadership mentor. And I'm a leadership mentor because of the roles I've had for nearly 30 years in business, not-for-profit and volunteer world. I've had many teams, global, remote. So a lot of clients bring me in and I do their job in a sense, rather than if they're the CEO, I'm the person for a couple of days and all the staff come and have a chat to me and go through literally a list of items that are about how they're leading their teams, and we talk about that. And I provide advice, I provide models, I talk it through, we role play it, whatever works. But a mentor is about you being there with the experience to help them in the situation that they're in. The question is, what type of mentor are you? Think about what's that expertise, what's that those ideas, what is it that you can bring to the conversation to make you attractive for someone to come to you to mentor. So think about, the mentors that you may have had. I know I've had loads, still have a couple. I'm all for reverse mentoring. So that's when it's a joint relationship and you both give your expertise. That's really useful. So what is it that you do? What can you bring as the mentor? So I'd like you to use the chats icon there, pressing in on that and ensuring, I think it's probably set up that it goes to, yep, everyone. Just write in there, what type of mentor are you? And if you haven't thought of yourself as a mentor, what could you offer? Think about the climate we're in at the moment. People are looking for information, they're anxious, they want to know about their job, they want to know about their career. Is it going to change? Am I keeping a job? Can I get a job? What's going on in the market? What expertise do you bring? And if I backtrack, don't undersell yourself. Think about what is it? Because you don't have to put a sign anywhere. It's how you could put yourself in your frame of mind, how you can be a mentor. Yeah, thanks, Leo and Yvette. Right, I'll read those out. Okay, so Yvette, supportive, caring, information sharing, helping small businesses exactly with knowledge. Yeah. So Ryan will be honest and supportive. Nosh, helping leaders through design their face-to-face workshops. So that's very specific. Yeah. Yeah. Good, good, good. Yeah, so there's a few ideas to think about how you can mentor. Some people might be gender specific and you know, aiming, because I know when I was in business there weren't very many female role models, so I had to go outside of my company and find someone at the time. At the moment, a mentor that I have, and it's a bit reverse, she's a psychologist, and not that I'm seeking psychological help, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just using some of the work that she does in my work, and then I'm helping her to facilitate. So we're working with each other that way. So it's useful to think of yourself as a mentor 24/7, that your door is open and you're there and happy to provide some advice. Now, Nosh, what did you pop in there? I just missed. I help thought leaders. Oh no, you wrote that. You've added on. Spiritual help, not religious, when people experience, anxiety, fear, confusion. Absolutely. You know, the list is unlimited. And think about the people in your workplace. So if you could all take on a role as a mentor. And mentors come at different ages, stages of their career, the more experience that they gain. I shared very quickly a story at a webinar last week where we had a group of guys, and we're all men, and they were at that stage of retirement, and we were wanting to help them to retire. Their partners didn't really want them to come home, but we job shared, and we had the guys retiring with our kind of aspiring next leaders work together and mentored. They mentored each other. So computer skills, because this was say 20 years ago, got them up to date, ready to move off into the new land. So there's all different opportunities for mentoring. Can you just take the mute off there, Tamara, and I'll just check in with everyone. Thank you. Just any thoughts, questions on mentoring?
Can I just say so we're an organisation, I'm a coach, and I work with my participants over a year, and I meet with them every 2 weeks, but we've actually engaged a small business mentoring service. And we also have our clients, so the way we see it is a coach is very generic. We work on a pathway for that person, whereas a mentor is really usually specific to their business. So you can be seen as either or. So what we're wanting someone in manufacturing to be attached to someone who's looking at manufacturing, just like you were saying, Louise. So they've got some fantastic resources. It's quite affordable because there's lots of clinics where that's done through the councils, and well worth considering. So we've teed up 5 of our participants meet with a mentor once a month, and that's highly valued by the clients.
That'd be a good link for us, Tamara, to have that for everyone. That's great, Yvette. I think you're also highlighting there that there's language out there of what a coach is and what a mentor is. I actually don't care, as long as it's what's the goal in mind? What are you wanting to achieve? And I think, Ryan, if you said it earlier, you know, you really, or no, Leo, you mentioned, you don't want to have that revolving door continually solving problems. You need to be able to push it back and get people to solve their own problems and issues. I think we forget in business that our employees generally are adults and they've all come with experience, and we forget that what they can bring to the party, in particular at the moment. I mean, there's some amazing stories going on in businesses at the moment, what they're doing to you know, move through the challenges, and some really creative ideas, and they're generally coming from the staff and, you know, not the, I suppose, the hierarchy in the business. Are you okay for me to do the final piece? Okay. So facilitator. So that is not just the person who stands up in front of the room and facilitates a workshop. It is what you do to involve others. So it can be the meeting, it can be the Zoom get together, but what it is, it's not the one person role. It's about involving everyone else to make that happen. So if we're in a Zoom situation, and I don't think it's that different. I'm just getting my handout, which I put together that you'll receive after this. And I just noted that it's really important when you're facilitating that, as you'd mentioned before, Tamara, that there are boundaries, that you acknowledge rituals, especially if you're doing so much online at the moment. If everyone normally in the office had a coffee, ensure you say, bring your coffee to the, you know, to the Zoom meeting. You know, make it as possible back to what they're used to. Ensure that the well-being is of concern when you are facilitating any, be it a gathering or getting work done, that the well-being is considered initially, and that there is structure, so that there is time that you're thinking about it. Like, we're finding that now the maximum time you can be on Zoom, because we're doing so many. I'll be interested in, Nosh, what you know from your experience. 90 minutes is max to be on a meeting, let alone a webinar, because of the inability for me to read your faces and pick up on any of your idiosyncrasies. And that gets back to when I showed the image of the brain, because I don't know that. I go to the amygdala, I go fear, and I'm wanting to run away rather than lean in. So if you're facilitating, it's about making sure that it's exciting, it's interesting, everyone's got a role. So I've said that it's important that someone moderates if it's a meeting, someone takes minutes, and that there's a mood checker, especially if you're voice only, or if you're in Zoom. And what I mean by minutes is that someone's checking the chat, someone is keeping an eye on the conversation, whereas if you're in a face-to-face meeting, someone might take minutes, and I like more kind of agile approach where it's done then and there, you know, you don't get it a week later. So it's just moving what you would normally do, but into the online virtual type world. Why facilitating is so important at the moment is the fact it's about involving. It's involving people more than they normally would be, giving them an option to opt out if necessary for their well-being, but to ask them opposed to leaving them out. Oh, thanks. So, what else can I tell you about facilitation? I think also that we don't need to overdo the virtual stuff. You can just pick up the phone or text, and let's not get that viewing fatigue that a lot of us are experiencing. But the more, the better at the moment, and let people tell you that it's too much. When you get to that, that's fine, but more information is powerful. in a gathering type mode as well. Challenges that are faced when you're facilitating, I find that when you use people's names, I think when we're around people quite regularly, we might not use their names enough, but when you're in this more make-up virtual world, people's names are really important. It gets their attention, and if they're doing too much talking, if you use their name, they'll stop because I've heard their name. I'm getting a thumbs up from Nosh. So that in itself has always been a great, if I've run, you know, many a meeting where I've been warned, and because I've been brought into a business, and rather than the chair run the meeting, I'll run it for them, and I'll say, now, that person talks too much to that person. So the name normally gets them. Change the agenda if things are challenging. If it's challenging their emotions, it's too ambiguous for them, change the tactic. Change the agenda if you're not getting the message across. You might need to change the subject entirely, but don't stick to an agenda if it's not working for you. And the final bit is you've got to agree to disagree if some people don't agree with what you are working on or talking about. That's when you might need to be more direct in your leadership. Again, we're in a crisis mode, and there are times when we do need to be direct. So that's facilitation. I'll get you to unmute Tamara, please. Questions on being the facilitator? Well, Leo, you must be in London by now.
Oh, I haven't been riding too hard. I've done it about 10K. So.
Oh.
I think facilitation is it's about getting other people to interact, right? And so sometimes you can act as an interpreter between people, or try and clarify, or give someone a chance. If you're in a meeting, just by looking at that person, it gives them the floor. But often, I mean, I work in a manufacturing environment. Excuse me, I'm a bit breathless. And so a lot of stuff is in the factory, and it's not so much in meetings. And, often you can solve problems just by getting someone else, right? Or just get so-and-so.
Yeah.
Whereas with this is my 4th hour of video conferencing today, so it's.
How are you feeling?
You're getting a bit tired now. It's just seemed to spend my life inside a room looking at a screen, so that's why I sort of mix it up between going to the office and working from home. So
yeah, it's pretty tiring, isn't it? I think we're almost doing too much of the visual.
Yeah. Well, everyone still wants to meet. That's the thing. So.
Beg your pardon?
Everyone still wants to meet, so it's just a matter of sort of trying to fit it all in.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose that then comes down to, really keeping the meeting on track. And this is what a visual can really help with that. I love a lot of people have been talking about where their Zoom is free and you've got 40 minutes, and can you keep your meetings to 40? So, whilst it's a bit of humour in that, it does make sense. We can curtail meetings and be far more mindful. And I'm saying this, the well-being of people to be in front of a screen for so long, it's not great. Go, Leo, and then I'll go to.
I wonder if anyone has tried a stand-up Zoom. At work, every second day I have a stand-up meeting, and we can keep it 10 minutes every day, no problem.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, look, I'm standing now because if I'm doing this, I would stand. I wouldn't sit down. So I've just made myself a stand-up Zoom area. And yes, so Nosh, would that be more of an agile type meeting, that stand-up meeting, very quick?
I think, yeah, what you want to do is, and I'll answer your question, but I think Ryan raised a very good point. Find out what works for you, because we're all very different. So if going to the office works for you, or going somewhere else or staying at home works for you, is fine. The reason we get Zoom fatigue is we're constantly concentrating at looking at a screen. Whereas in a meeting room in a real world, we'll fidget with our phone, we'll play with our Apple Watch, or if you've got one of those, or we'll type. If the meeting gets boring, and I've been in those meetings, I'll start.
Not now, I hope.
No, not now, definitely. But I'll start scribing an email. We've all done that, you know. Or I've even caught colleagues doodling on their notepad. So it's sort of that. But I think what you want to do is just have a short, sharp meeting and really ask yourself, can this be done over the phone, or can this be done? Why do you need Zoom? Or if you do need Zoom, if it's just a one-on-one catch up, let's say, hey, do you want to walk around the block and we'll do a walk and talk meeting? Because that's where I heard with someone. And if that works for you, you're getting that exercise and you're getting out of your house as well.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, the exercise is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good old walking meetings. It's a bit of a challenge to keep that up. So just to wrap it up, I think my time is almost up with this session, but we can do more Q&A. What of the three roles, so facilitator, mentor, and coach, which one are you going to focus on? What's your implementation thinking going to be? So, I think we're almost all off. Okay, Leo, you can take your mute off.
That was just my attempt at the YMCA. I don't know which way it goes, but that was just for C for coach, right?
Coach, all right, going to focus on that.
One can be hard, especially if your position is one where you're supposed to be a manager. Asking questions, people don't sort of expect that. So,
yeah, bit of practice there. Great, thanks, Leo. Yvette, what are you thinking?
Well, look, I move between all three, but I think predominantly I'm a coach because of my role. Although I think I'm moving now into facilitating, because I think facilitation is a coach really does all the encouragement, but a facilitator, I think, empowers people in a way, because you're kind of going, here's the knowledge, but how are you going to use it? You know, I suppose all three do it, but I sort of see facilitation as giving very specific knowledge and then finding out from that person what they actually want to move forward with.
Okay, thank you, Yvette. What are you thinking, Ryan?
Probably more coaching. Probably need to ask a few more questions. I tend to sort of live in telling people what to do rather than asking people to maybe get the best out of them.
Yeah, that's great acknowledgement, because we all do it. It's just that reaction. It's at the traffic lights and that car swerves nearly into you and you react. That is normal. You want to go in and give the solution. That's how we've been brought up. And we're asking you to potentially change that and say, zip the lips. Yeah, it's a question.
Well, yeah. And accounting firms are very hierarchical as well. So sort of meant to be sort of top down sort of thing.
Yes, worked with a few accounting firms. That's been my experience. Nosh?
I was tossing between facilitator and mentor, but after listening to Yvette, I think I'm more of a facilitator for sure. Because I think I like, rather than telling people, I like empowering people and getting them to think of their own solutions, because when they think their solutions, they actually put that into practice. Whereas if you give someone the solution, they may not implement it rather. So, fantastic session, by the way. I really enjoyed it. I've taken some notes as well. So thank you.
Nosh. Kim?
Yes, I think my background. I think my career was all in the more so-called paternalistic countries like Singapore, Malaysia, and China. So the way we go about it is we just most of the time the boss will say, "Oh, this is the task," and we don't feel very comfortable in talking too much to each other. So I think having grown up in those kind of areas, I think a facilitator role would be best for all. Obviously, yes, you put in a bit of coaching here and there in a very subtle way, but generally it's like, okay, prepare the platform so that each one can actually walk on his own. What do you call that? Feeling free, I suppose.
You raised some good points there, Kim, in particular about the culture. And, you know, we're such an amazing country that we work with so many different nationalities. We've got to be really mindful of what's potentially their normal and to factor that in. And I think it's really brave of a lot of people that I've worked with have really challenged themselves to really do an absolute switch on how they approach. So, you know, good luck. You know, it's not easy, but we see it happening around us, but to actually do it can be a real challenge. But in particular in your role, facilitates definitely a very powerful way to behave. Did I ask everyone? Tamara, how will you respond there? Coach, mentor, facilitate?
I don't know, to be honest. I guess in both my jobs, I really don't have staff to report to or to be a part of. A lot of my work's very autonomous. But I guess even with that, if I even look at it from a family point of view, you know, obviously I've got 4 young children of my own who I have to, you know, coach through life as such. What kind of values, and what Kim was saying too with culture, what kind of culture do I want to bring them up in? How do I want them to question the world? Those kind of things. So I guess for me in that aspect would be to coach, to always be asking questions and providing answers. Yeah,
I think as a parent in particular, you switch through those 3 hats on a very regular basis. And just to be clear on those 3, it makes it even easier to parent. But I'm not going to profess to be an amazing parent with a 15-year-old son at the moment. I'm struggling, but I'm working on it. I keep trying different approaches, but that's life. So thanks, Tamara, Greater Dandenong Chamber of Commerce, for inviting me to run tonight's webinar. If there are any other questions or discussion, happy to take it on.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You're on.
Thank you, Louise. That was great and helpful, and I think it does question us. You know, it makes you question different methods because we can all learn from each other. So thank you.
Exactly. Oh, thank you very much.
Very much. Yeah.
Thanks, Kim.
Oh, if no one's got any questions or any other discussion, thank you very much, Louise, especially for doing 3 for the chamber. That's fantastic. I hope everyone got something out of tonight. And just in case I missed it in my rambling before, so the session's recorded. The Chamber is hoping to open the YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and like our Facebook page, because that's where the majority of our communication will be. But also tomorrow, everyone will be getting those handouts from Louise, and the links and everything will be in the email in case we set.
So come and connect with me on LinkedIn, and if you've got any further questions, scenarios, please continue the conversation. More than happy to help you, especially at the moment.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us, and keep an eye out for the email tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tamara.
Thank you for being my little coachie.
Not a problem. Thanks everyone.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.